This is not going to be a soft, comforting video. This is not about sugarcoating reality or pretending everything will work out if you just stay positive. What I'm about to share may feel heavy, maybe even uncomfortable, but sometimes what we need is not comfort, it's clarity. Think of this as a wake-up call. Everywhere I look, when the topic of narcissism comes up, I see people falling into the same trap, underestimating it. They brush it off with a shrug, saying things like, "Oh, she's just a little vain," or "He's full of himself," but deep down, he's harmless. Some even go so far as to call narcissistic behavior cute or quirky. And that, right there, is the problem. Because if that's the lens you're using, you're not seeing narcissism for what it truly is. Narcissism isn't just arrogance. It isn't simply being self-centered or difficult. It isn't about someone who hogs the mirror or constantly posts selfies. True narcissistic personality disorder goes far beyond that. We're talking about a pattern of manipulation, control, and destruction that leaves lives shattered in its wake. And yet, so many people act as if it's nothing more than an annoying personality quirk. Let me be clear. Narcissists are not harmless. They are not just misunderstood people who need a hug or someone who talks too much about themselves at dinner parties. What we're dealing with here is something far more serious, something intentional, something dangerous. And here's the part that might sting. If you've been under the influence of a narcissist, chances are you've already been conditioned to doubt yourself, to downplay what's happening, to make excuses for them. You might have said things like, "Maybe I'm overreacting," or "It's probably my fault," or "They didn't mean it like that." That's not random. That's the result of being targeted, manipulated, and slowly reprogrammed. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how quickly a narcissist can change their behavior when someone else is watching? One moment, they're cruel, cold, dismissive. And the second they realize an audience is present, suddenly they're charming, kind, and full of warmth. That switch isn't accidental. It's proof that they know exactly what they're doing. This is why I'm making this video, because too many people are sleepwalking through these situations, hoping things will change, hoping kindness will melt the cruelty, hoping love will fix what's broken. But with narcissists, hope becomes a trap. And if nobody tells you the truth, you can waste years, even decades, stuck in a cycle that only exists to feed them, while you're left drained, confused, and broken. So here's the truth. There are 3 fundamental things you must understand about narcissists, 3 undeniable patterns that show exactly what their intentions are. And once you see these clearly, you can't unsee them. Once you understand, you'll realize you can't afford to keep minimizing, excusing, or ignoring what's really going on. This is not about paranoia. It's not about hating people. It's about survival. And if you want to protect your mind, your heart, and your future, you need to face this reality head-on. So let's dive in. If you want to understand narcissists, you have to strip away the confusion and focus on the one thing they ultimately trying to achieve. Submission. Everything else, the gaslighting, the guilt trips, the silent treatment, the explosive anger, even the sweet gestures that feel like love, all of it points back to one goal. They want you to kneel, metaphorically speaking. They want you to hand over your willpower, your self-esteem, and your independence, and let them rule over you. This is why so many people trapped in narcissistic relationships feel exhausted and hopeless. They keep asking themselves, "Why did he say that? Why does she keep doing this? I told him it hurts me, so why does he repeat it? Why can't she just stop?" The answer is simple but painful, because the point isn't to meet your needs. The point is to break your spirit. Narcissists don't stumble into hurtful behavior by accident. They're not clueless about what they're doing. They attack your confidence deliberately, because a person with no confidence is easier to control. They undermine your self-esteem, because someone who doesn't believe in their own worth won't resist mistreatment. They chip away at your hope, because a hopeless person is less likely to fight back or walk away. Think about how predators work in nature. A lion doesn't go after the strongest animal in the herd. It targets the one that's limping, tired, or cut off from the group. Why? Because that's the easiest prey. In the same way, narcissists deliberately weaken you until you feel like escape is impossible. They want you doubting your judgment, questioning your value, and second-guessing every step you take. Submission is their trophy. When you finally give up arguing, when you stop standing up for yourself, when you start believing you're the problem, that's when they feel victorious. To them, your silence equals control. Your despair is proof that they've won. And here's the twisted part. They don't necessarily want to destroy you completely, at least not right away. They want you broken enough to stay, but not so broken that you can't still serve their needs. They want you alive, functioning, and useful, but stripped of your freedom, your joy, and your inner fire. It's like keeping a bird in a cage. They don't want the bird dead, because then it has no use. They want it alive, but with clipped wings, singing only when they allow it. This is why so many survivors of narcissistic abuse describe feeling like they lost themselves. Because that is exactly what is happening. Your sense of self is being dismantled piece by piece. One day you wake up and realize you don't laugh as freely, you don't dream as boldly, you don't stand as tall. You've been conditioned to make yourself smaller and smaller until there's nothing left but obedience. And make no mistake, every tactic they use, whether it's rage, manipulation, charm, or pity, is part of the same campaign. The campaign to force you into submission. Even their good moments are strategic. When they suddenly shower you with affection, gifts, or attention, it's not genuine love. It's reinforcement. It's training. They're showing you the reward you'll get if you stay compliant, if you stop resisting, if you do things their way. It's the same principle used in breaking down prisoners of war. Interrogators alternate between cruelty and kindness, punishments followed by small rewards, until the prisoner is too disoriented to tell what's real. In the end, the prisoner submits, not because they want to, but because their will has been eroded. That's the same psychological mechanism narcissists rely on. And if you think this sounds extreme, consider this. How many times have you found yourself apologizing for things you didn't even do? How many times have you lowered your standards just to keep the peace? How many times have you bitten your tongue, ignored your own pain, or convinced yourself to let it slide just to avoid conflict? That is submission, whether you realized it in the moment or not. But here's the good news. Recognizing this is the first step toward breaking free. Once you understand that every move they make is aimed at forcing you to give up your power, you can start reclaiming it. You can stop wasting energy trying to figure out why, and instead see the pattern for what it is, a demand for your surrender. The most dangerous mistake you can make is believing that if you just explain yourself better, or love them harder, or compromise more, things will improve. That's the illusion they want you to live in. Because as long as you're trying, as long as you're bending, as long as you're sacrificing, they're winning. So let me say it plainly. The narcissist doesn't want understanding, or compromise, or healing. They want control. And control only comes when you submit. Every insult, every lie, every manipulation is designed to push you closer to that point. The real question is, are you willing to hand over your will? Or will you finally recognize the game and refuse to play? If submission is the narcissist's ultimate goal, invasion is the method they use to get there. And when I say invasion, I don't just mean invading your personal space or controlling your schedule. I mean something much deeper. Narcissistic abuse is a full-scale colonization of your mind. They don't just want influence. They want ownership. They want to occupy your thoughts, to rewire the way you see yourself, and to install their voice inside your head so that even when they're not around, you're still under their control. This isn't just manipulation. It's psychological warfare. How do they do this? with a combination of intimidation, charm, and deception. Some days they come at you with force, harsh criticism, explosive anger, or silent withdrawal that leaves you begging for their attention. Other days they disarm you with sweetness, compliments, affection, flattery, promises of change. These shifts aren't random. They're calculated to keep you unbalanced, to confuse your instincts, and to lower your defenses. Think of it like a hacker breaking into a computer system. At first, they probe for weaknesses. A password that's easy to guess, a firewall with a gap. Once they're in, they plant malware that keeps running in the background, even when you think everything is fine. That's exactly what narcissists do to your mind. They test your vulnerabilities, slip past your guard, and then install mental viruses that keep you second-guessing yourself long after the initial attack. One of their most powerful tools is gaslighting. By denying your reality, twisting facts, and questioning your memory, they force you to doubt your own perception. Imagine being told again and again, "That never happened," or "You're imagining things," or "You're too sensitive." Over time, you start wondering if maybe they're right, if maybe you can't trust yourself. That's the invasion working. That's the colonization taking root. And it's not just about memory or perception. Narcissists aim to rewrite your identity. They tell you who you are, what you think, what you feel, and what you're worth. Slowly, your inner voice gets drowned out by theirs. You stop asking, "What do I want?" and start asking, "What will keep them happy?" That shift might seem subtle, but it's devastating. Because once they've colonized your identity, you become a puppet, moving to their strings without realizing it. They'll also use flattery and love-bombing to soften you up. In the early stages, they might shower you with compliments, attention, and affection. You feel seen, valued, even adored. But that's not real love. It's bait. It's the sugarcoating on the pill of control. Once you've swallowed it, once you've lowered your guard, they begin the real work of brainwashing. And here's where it gets even darker. Narcissists are strategic about timing. They know when to push, when to retreat, and when to switch masks. If you're on the verge of leaving, suddenly they'll turn kind again, reminding you of the good times. If you're angry, they'll play the victim, making you feel guilty for even thinking about walking away. If you're doubting yourself, they'll swoop in with false reassurance, giving you just enough comfort to keep you hooked. Every move is designed to deepen the invasion and tighten the chains around your mind. Over time, the effect is profound. You no longer need them to criticize you because you've internalized their criticism. You no longer need them to shame you because you shame yourself on their behalf. You've been colonized. Their voice becomes your inner judge, your inner critic, your inner oppressor. And that's exactly what they want. Because now, even if they disappear, the damage continues. The virus keeps running. Survivors of narcissistic abuse often describe this as the most painful part. It is not just the things the narcissist did while present. It's the way the abuse echoes long after they were gone. You hear their words in your head when you make a mistake. You feel their judgment when you try to stand tall. You second-guess your worth, even in relationships they're not part of. That's how deep the colonization goes. And why do they go to such lengths? Because if they can control your mind, they don't have to force your body. Once they've brainwashed you, you'll police yourself. You'll hesitate to speak up, to leave, to resist, not because they're holding you back physically, but because the prison is inside you. And that, to them, is the most efficient form of control. This is why it's so dangerous to underestimate narcissistic abuse. It's not just about arguments or bad moods. It's not just about being with someone difficult. It's about losing ownership of your own thoughts. It's about surrendering your inner freedom to someone whose only goal is to exploit it. But here's the hopeful part. Just as a virus can be detected and removed, so can this psychological colonization. It starts by recognizing what's happening, by seeing the invasion for what it is, by reclaiming your inner voice and separating it from theirs. Healing takes time, But every moment you spend questioning their narrative and trusting your own perception is a step toward freedom. Never forget, the narcissist's power doesn't come from magic. It comes from deception, from confusion, from tricks of the mind. The moment you see through those tricks, the invasion begins to crumble. The brainwashing starts to lose its grip, and slowly you can reclaim the territory of your own mind. If there's one thing that confuses people the most about narcissists, it's their so-called kindness. Survivors often look back and say, "But sometimes they were so nice. Sometimes they gave me gifts. Sometimes they helped me when I needed it. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe they weren't as bad as I thought." That confusion is intentional, because with narcissists even kindness is a weapon. Let's be absolutely clear. Narcissists are never kind in the way you hope they are. What looks like kindness is always strategy. It's either a performance to alter how others see them, or bait to soften you up for more control. There is no third option. Think about how many times you've seen this play out. After weeks of coldness, cruelty, or indifference, suddenly they show up with flowers. After months of neglect, suddenly they shower you with affection. After betraying your trust, suddenly they cry, apologize, and promise they've changed. On the surface, it looks like remorse. It looks like growth. But look closer and you'll see the pattern. The timing is always convenient for them. When their reputation is at risk, they perform kindness to clean it up. They'll volunteer, donate, or do something generous, but not because they care about helping. They do it to manage perception, to look good in the eyes of others, or to make you doubt your own judgment. If they can convince you, or the people around you, that they are generous and thoughtful, then they've effectively hidden the cruelty that happens behind closed doors. And when you're the target, their kindness often comes right when you're ready to give up. Just when you're about to leave, just when you've decided you can't take anymore, suddenly they become the person you always wished they could be. They're affectionate, attentive, loving. For a moment you feel like maybe you were wrong. Maybe they're capable of love after all. Maybe things can be fixed. That hope is the trap. This cycle of cruelty followed by kindness is not a mistake. It's conditioning. It's the same principle used in training animals. Punish, reward, punish, reward. Over time, you become addicted to the rare moments of sweetness, clinging to them as proof that things can change. You tell yourself, "See, they're not all bad. They can be good sometimes." But what you don't realize is that those good moments are engineered. They're calculated to keep you hooked. It's like drinking poison that's been coated with sugar. The sweetness masks the destruction underneath. You swallow it more easily, but it still kills you slowly. Narcissistic kindness works the same way. It feels good in the moment, but its purpose is to weaken your defenses so the next attack hits even harder. This is why so many people struggle to leave narcissistic relationships. If the abuse were constant and unrelenting, escape would be easier. But the cycle of cruelty and kindness creates confusion. You don't know which version of them is real. You hope the kind version will stick around, and you blame yourself when it disappears again. That confusion is what keeps you tethered. And let's talk about the moral trick narcissists use here. They know that most empathetic people desperately want to believe in redemption. We want to believe people can change. We want to give second chances. Narcissists exploit that hope like a master craftsman. They dangle the illusion of change in front of you, not because they intend to change, but because they know you want it so badly. Your empathy becomes the chain that keeps you tied to them. But here's the harsh truth. The kindness you see is never free. It always comes with strings attached. It's always serving their agenda. Maybe it's to make you forgive them faster. Maybe it's to convince outsiders they're a good person. Maybe it's to lure you back into submission. Whatever the reason, it's never about genuine care for you. It's about preserving their control. You can test this for yourself. Ask, does their kindness last? Or does it disappear the moment they get what they want? Does it come at convenient times, when they need something or risk losing you? Does it feel consistent and genuine, or does it feel like a performance? Once you start asking these questions honestly, you'll see the pattern. The kindness is conditional, temporary, transactional, and perhaps most revealing. True kindness has no hidden agenda. Genuine kindness doesn't demand repayment, doesn't manipulate, doesn't confuse. With narcissists, their so-called kindness always comes with an undertone of expectation. They want something in return: your loyalty, your forgiveness, your silence, your submission. The danger here is not just that you're tricked into staying longer. It's that you start to doubt your ability to tell good from bad. You think, if they can be kind, maybe they're not truly abusive. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe it's me. That erosion of moral clarity is devastating, because once you can no longer call bad behavior bad, you're defenseless. That's exactly where they want you. So let me make it plain. Narcissists don't have off days where they suddenly become genuinely kind. They don't take breaks from manipulation to show you the real them. The real them is always calculating, always strategizing. What looks like generosity is camouflage. What feels like love is bait. What seems like kindness is simply another weapon in their arsenal. Don't be fooled. If you feel yourself softening after their rare displays of sweetness, remind yourself. This is not love. This is not change. This is strategy. Their kindness is a mask, and masks are worn for one reason only: to hide the truth underneath. If you've made it this far, you already know this video hasn't been about comfort. It hasn't been about sugarcoating or pretending narcissists are just misunderstood people who need a little more love. This has been a wake-up call. Because the truth is, narcissists don't stop. They don't take breaks. They don't suddenly transform into healthy, loving partners or leaders or friends. Every act, every word, every gesture, every silence has one purpose: control. Whether through submission, through mental invasion, or through false kindness, their endgame is always the same: to keep you small so they can feel big, to keep you broken so they can feel whole, to keep you doubting yourself so they can stay in power. And here's the most dangerous trap. The longer you stay, the harder it becomes to see clearly. Their voice becomes your voice. Their rules become your reality. Their cruelty becomes your normal. That's why people lose not just years, but decades to these cycles, because they're waiting for proof that may never come. So, let me tell you plainly, waiting for a narcissist to change is like waiting for poison to turn into medicine. It won't happen. You can cry for it, hope for it, beg for it, but the poison stays poison, and the longer you drink it, the more damage it does. This doesn't mean healing is impossible. In fact, the opposite is true. The moment you begin to name what's happening, the fog starts to lift. The moment you say, "This is abuse, this is manipulation, this is evil," you take back a piece of your power, because naming truth is the first step to freedom. Don't let anyone convince you that recognizing evil makes you harsh or unforgiving. Don't let therapists, coaches, or even friends shame you into moral relativism. The idea that everyone has their reasons, or maybe it's just their trauma. Trauma explains behavior, but it does not excuse it. Pain may shape someone, but it never justifies them destroying others. Evil is evil, no matter the excuse. So here's my call to you. Trust your perception again. Trust the part of you that knows when something is wrong. Trust the inner voice that has been drowned out for too long, because that voice is your lifeline out of this cycle. You don't have to wait for rescue. You don't have to wait for the narcissist to wake up one day and decide to be kind. That day is not coming. Nobody is coming to save you. But you can save yourself. By naming the abuse. By refusing to excuse it. By stepping away from the poison and reclaiming your own life. Cry if you need to. Grieve if you must. Scream, write, pray, break down. But do not go back to the fantasy. Do not go back to the poisoned well. Because you are not here to be enslaved. You are not here to be colonized. You are not here to be broken down so someone else can feel like a god. You are here to live, to love freely, to stand tall, to know who you are. And the moment you shun evil and call it by its name, that's the moment your healing begins. So take this as the slap, the jolt, the wake-up call you needed. Evil is evil. Narcissists are not misunderstood saints. They are destroyers. And the only way to win is not to play their game. Protect yourself. Stand firm. Reclaim your life.